Hello there, welcome to lesson number 3 in our series on using FluidDesigner for 3D printing to create lampshades and desk lamp covers. In today's lesson we're going to show you how you can use a step pyramid object to create a lamp cover. So we're assuming you've got a desk lamp which has got a bulb and a stand. This is a cover to go on top of it. So if you start off FluidDesigner, first thing we need to do is to go to Learning Projects, Lighting Projects, and we're doing lesson number 03, so it's a desk lamp cover which is a pyramid shape. So this is the object that we're going to create or recreate, and as you can see it's a step pyramid. And I'm just going to switch on the screencast keys, so any key presses I make should be displayed in the panel here, and just remind you that the instructions are in the help window on the left if you don't want to follow the video. So what have we got to do? Well, we've got to add a mesh. It's miscellaneous objects and it's a step pyramid object. So it's add a mesh, miscellaneous objects, so it's a built-in function, step pyramid. And this properties, this toolbox window should open up here with various parameters that we can set for this step pyramid object. As you can see, there's you can't see much of the object at the moment because it's only 2mm by 2mm by 1mm. But if we go to View and Zoom Selected, you will be able to see it. Okay, so that's the basic step pyramid. And what we want to do is to make some changes to the various parameters in this panel here to reshape and then also later on resize this step pyramid. So at the moment we've got 4 sides. Well, I think the number of sides is pretty obvious. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we can change that. We can go to 5, 6, 7, or we can go down to 3. Okay, so in this exercise we're going to do a 5-sided step pyramid. So that's the first parameter that we can change. The number of steps, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, they're pretty obvious. We could reduce them. As you can see, if we take it down to 1, we've not got a pyramid at all, we've just got the base. So we're going to leave that at 10 in this instance. The initial width, well, the initial width at the moment is 2, so it's the base step width. We want an initial width of 6, so let's see what happens as we change this. Yeah, so it's not just the initial step, the bottom step, that's changing. All the others are actually changing with it. And notice that the top step is getting much larger now, and as a result of that, flatter. So we want to be 6, so why don't we just type in 6? That'll be the easiest way of doing it. So there's our 5-sided step pyramid now with 10 steps. We also want to change the height. At the moment it's 0.1. Now that's how tall each step will be. So each step is 0.1. So if we increase this, yeah, each step is being increased. I'll just take it back down to 0.1 again. So it's not just one step, the bottom step, that's being increased in height, it's every single step. We want to set the height up to 0.5. So I'm going to have to type it in, I think. It's not often the case that that will give you exactly these values. And okay, so that's the height. Now the last thing that we want to try and change is how much to reduce each succeeding step by. So at the moment it's 0.2. We want to change it to 0.5, so let's see what happens. Okay, so it's bringing the top of the pyramid in as we do this. So in other words, this step is 0.41 smaller than the bottom step. This step is 0.41 smaller than the step below it. So the higher this value, the more tapered it's going to become at the top, and we want 0.5, so I'm going to do 0.5. Okay, so those are the values that we need to change in the parameters panel there. And Now what we want to do is, if we go zoom back out again and look at the original pyramid, you can see what we've got is still extremely small. Still extremely small. So what we need to do is we need to scale it up. At the moment, this object is about it's 5.5 millimeters by about 6 millimeters by 5 millimeters, and the finished one has got to be something like 200 millimeters. So if we point the mouse at the center, it's not really a good idea to point it out here. But what we're about to do, we're going to scale this object up. If we point it at the object right at the center, to make it larger, we've got to scale it up. So it's S on the keyboard to scale. And if we now drag the mouse out, whoops, I'm going to try and change it until Z is about 200 millimeters. So that's it, that's about 200 millimeters. And so I'm just going to click the left mouse button there to accept that value. Okay, so we've scaled it up to 200, so it was 5 millimeters Z, so we've scaled it up by a factor of about 40. And we could have actually entered that value in rather than dragging the mouse. And if I open up the toolbox panel, one of the things you've always got to remember in FluidDesigner is whenever you scale an object, the resize vectors will change. And as I say, we've changed this from a height of 5 millimeters to 200, or just over 200. So we've scaled it up by a factor of 40. We cannot, well, you've got to be very careful if you print with these scale factors at anything other than 1. So you've always got to reset the scale in FluidDesigner. And we do that by holding down the Control key and pressing A and applying the scale. So you'll see the box here, the scale factor is now set back to 1, so that's ticked. It doesn't change the size, but it can affect it if you print it without resetting the scale. Okay, so there's our basic step pyramid now. Now you notice the one at the bottom, it's got a hole in it at the bottom and at the top, and that's what we want to do with our pyramid now. We want to put some holes in it, and we want to put the gap in at this side, which is where the cable would go through, because we're assuming that this is a cover for a table lamp. So we want to, first of all let's delete the face at the top of this. So what we need to do is to go into edit mode, and we can go into edit mode in FluidDesigner by pressing the tab key on the keyboard. Now because we've got these little squares here, what this means is we're currently in face select mode. So all we need to do is to highlight the face at the top, and to delete anything in FluidDesigner it's the X key on the keyboard, and I'm going to delete that face at the top there. So I've now got a hole in the top of my mesh. I also want to delete one of the faces on the bottom here so that electrical cable can go through. So again, I highlight it. X on the keyboard is for delete, and I want to delete that face. And then finally what I want to do is to delete the face on the bottom of the object. Now we can't quite see it at the moment because of the grid, but if I just press the tab key and come out of edit mode, if I just lift this up off the grid, you can see that there is a face there on the bottom. So if I press tab key again, go back into edit mode, and if I click on the face at the very bottom of the object of the step pyramid, so that face is highlighted, I can delete that now by pressing X on the keyboard and delete that face. So there we are, we've now deleted a face at the top and at the bottom, and we've got a gap on the side here. Okay, so that's in face select mode in edit mode. So we can press the tab key on the keyboard to come out of edit mode now, and the only thing we've got to do is we've got to change this shell, because this pyramid now, because it hasn't got a top or a bottom, it is just a thin shell at the moment, and we can't print that. So what we're going to do is to apply some thickness to this so that we can print it. And we do that in FluidDesigner by going to the modifiers options. So it's the little spanner modifier in the properties window, and we click add modifier, and the modifier we're going to use is we're going to solidify this object, solidify modifier. Just open up that panel. Now as I change the thickness here, if you look at the shell, you'll see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're adding thickness on the inside of the object there. So we're going to just apply a thickness of 3 millimeters. You've probably seen this before, but if we change the offset to +1, the thickness is on the outside, -1 is on the inside, +1 is on the outside. We could also tick even thickness in this case. Whether or not we put it on the inside or the outside, probably not going to make a lot of difference with such a large object as this, but it does make a big difference whether it's inside or outside if you're creating a bracelet or a ring or some other such object. Now to confirm this solidify modifier, you need to go to Tools, Object Tools, and convert the whole thing to a mesh. That applies the modifier, and we can't change that anymore now. So we can put that panel out of the way. So we've created our step pyramid. What we can do now is to delete the original one. Delete the original one, yeah. And if we just go to the main information icon here, you see that I did move the pyramid up. What I can do is I can enter in 0 millimeters there just to put it back on the grid. Not vital, but just to tidy it up. So we can see the dimensions of the pyramid now. It's got a height of 200 millimeters, and it's got a dimensions across of 225 and 235 millimeters, depending upon where you measure it from. Okay, so that's the size of it. What we want to do now is to save it, and as is usual in FluidDesigner, we always go to File and Save As. Just go up through the menu system. Don't save excuse me, don't save it in the Learning Projects folder. Go to My Projects folder, and it's My Projects Lighting Projects, and it's Lesson 03. It's a desk lamp cover pyramid shape, so we save that as a Blender file. Now we can't print Blender files, so what we do is export it as a wavefront object. This is the file format we like to use, and export it to the desktop. So it's Lesson 03 desk lamp cover pyramid object. And always when you use FluidDesigner, always go to Netfab Basic and go to Project and Open from the desktop. Lesson 03 desk lamp cover pyramid, and just analyze the mesh with Netfab Basic and see if there's any problems with it, and let Netfab fix it. So if we go to Extras and Repair Part, just move the window across. There aren't any problems. It's a relatively simple object, this. Netfab has triangulated the mesh, but always just run automatic repair and execute it, and apply the repair and remove the old part. Very easy to do in Netfab. Just confirms the mesh is printable. So all you need to do is to go to Part, export the part as a wavefront object, export it to the desktop, and it's Lesson 03 desk lamp cover pyramid, and it's the repaired object file that you would send to the printer. Okay, so that's it. That's the end of this lesson. Thank you.